everyone, and welcome to Majority Rules. This is Season 1, Episode 28, I think. This is the podcast about Mizzou Athletics Majority, which is Olympic sports athletes. Sorry we haven't been here on a weekly basis. Things are just kind of crazy around here with Diamond Sports having multiple games a week last week. Gymnastics is keeping me busy. So much softball, so much baseball. Just Abigail's track everybody across the country at a track meet. So we thank everyone for joining us. Quentin could not be with us, and we don't know why. He didn't tell us. He's too good for us now that he's going to be at the Missourian, I guess. And Rory is having a celebratory dinner because she got an internship at MLB Network this summer. So good for her. I guess she might be too big for us now, too. So you just get us. I'm Karen Steger. I am your host. I'm the Olympic sports manager at Rock M Nation. I also am the sometimes softball writer. I am supposed to be the softball writer, though Dylan has been filling in for me quite a bit lately. I am also the gymnastics beat writer, and I write about swimming from time to time. Let's go down below to Abigail.
Hi everyone, my name is Abigail Klapatauskas. I am a senior at Mizzou, and I am the cross-country and track and field beat reporter.
And up above to the roommates.
I am one half of the roommates. I am Dylan Heinrich. I am a current sophomore at Mizzou. I am currently the soccer and women's basketball writer, along with Karen's helping hand at softball, which came into effect yesterday. So
God bless you.
got some stuff to talk about with softball, that's for sure. So.
Have some stuff to talk about with baseball as well.
But what is your name?
Yeah, I was going to get there eventually. I was going to say baseball, not really that fun either. But my name is Matthew Gustafson. I am the volleyball, wrestling, and baseball beat writer at Rock M Nation. And today we'll have updates for all three of those.
Yes. All right. So we will get into it with starting with some sadness. Hey, we have a baseball team at the University of Missouri.
Do we?
And that's all I have to say about that.
Right now, you are seeing this team pay for the consequences of the actions of previous coaches and administrations, of piling injuries, which have led to the team having a pretty decent offense. You have a couple of good players, young players. You're seeing a Keegan Knutson develop in his first season as a Tiger out of JUCO. You're seeing a true freshman, Chris Patterson, get into the lineup the last couple of weeks, kind of out of nowhere, and he's really developed into a solid member of the lineup. That being said, it's great if you can score 10 runs. If you give up 15, it's not going to matter. And that's what Mizzou did multiple times last weekend when they faced Arkansas, allowing a combined 50 runs to the nation's second-ranked team in the Razorbacks, losing all three games in 7 innings. Previously, they did get a big 25-10 win April 1st over UAPB, and then the next day, a walk-off win 8-7, during which Daniel Whistler, one of the team's best pitchers, returned, arguably the team's best pitcher that isn't already out for this season. He threw 6 pitches, was injured, and had to exit the game. His status is unclear, and he has not returned since then. They're also missing Ian Losey, who began the year as a member of the rotation. Among other notable injuries, they did get Tony Newbeck back, but it's been a little bit of a process getting him back. They've also gotten PJ Green back. He was out of action for about a week or so. Cameron Benson is back, but nevertheless, a lot of injuries recently for this Mizzou team. Currently, They are in Gainesville with one of their best opportunities on the schedule to get a win. Tigers are currently 0-12 in SEC play. That is the longest winless streak for Mizzou in program history to begin conference play. They have a shot. This is Florida, probably the second worst team in the SEC. Currently top of the third in Gainesville. First game of the series, and Mizzou is down 6-0, allowing 6 runs in the first. So again, this team has a solid offense, but the pitching and defense as well holds it back. The defense, something that we really haven't talked about as much as the pitching, because pitching obviously has been kind of that main concern, but it really popped up in a midweek game this week at SIUE, the Tigers winning 11-8. That being said, they committed 8 errors. Of the 8 runs allowed, this was actually a good outing for the Tigers pitchers. Of the 8 runs allowed, 1 of them was earned. The Tigers allowed 7 unearned runs in the contest. It was tied 8-8 entering the 9th. Caden Nicoletto coming up in the clutch with a 2-run home run to left field. And then Chris Patterson tripling later on, the true freshman, to score a 3rd insurance run. Tigers getting it done. But 8 errors, not great. The fielding is among the worst in the SEC, but it has really been overshadowed by a historically bad pitching staff that has been hit by injuries, by regression from some of the better players from last season, namely Brock Lucas has not looked the same this year. The situation is bad for Mizzou. I do believe that there are some promising signs, like I talked about with that offense. Some of the freshman pitchers have looked pretty good. You can tell that the stuff is there. The stuff is better than some of the pitchers that are older. That being said, it looks rough right now. And I believe that Jackson should get at least 1 more year to see his vision out. That's something that a lot of people have been saying he should not get. But there are definitely more and more troubling signs with this team.
Well, with that too, I think that we are going to see a shift in the non-revenue sports. No matter how the coaches are doing, they're likely to stay put because of the revenue share, because they're going to be spending so much money on that like it kind of, from everything I've seen, it kind of seems like that's going to pretty much make it so unless it's real cheap to get rid of the person, you're probably going to be stuck with them for a while. But I also don't think, well, Kerrick Jackson is Laird Veach's guy. Like he came from Memphis, and I think before you can, unless Mizzou has somehow contributed to all of these whack injuries that they keep getting.
And the thing is that the injuries were an issue before Jackson got here. You look at the last year of Steve Beazer, right? All those injuries to the pitchers.
Yeah, I remember that.
Led to him being fired. The team was maybe a tournament team before that, right? So injuries have been an issue with this team, this program, for multiple years under multiple head coaches. And you look at Jackson, the resources are the worst, arguably, in the SEC, right? The stadium, unarguably, is the worst in the SEC. Jackson is a highly respected coach within the profession. He's had success multiple places. I think that obviously Mizzou is a place that is a long-term rebuild. And honestly, in my view, covering the team now this year, from what I've seen, if you have Kerrick Jackson and his coaching staff, which includes Tim Jamison, one of the most successful coaches of all time at Mizzou, nearly went to a WCWS, made a super regional in 06, right? Coached some of the legendary players in the program, Ian Kinsler, Max Scherzer, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
You can't succeed with them at the helm. Is any coach going to be able to succeed given the resources at Mizzou? I think you're better off investing in the program now, giving Jackson a real shot to succeed. If he doesn't, obviously then it's time to move on. But You have to give him those resources first to actually know what he is capable of in the SEC.
Right. And I feel like I was talking about with all the injuries, before I feel like you make a change, you have to see what he can do when the team is healthy.
Yes.
Like,
I'm not saying that.
I don't feel like you can expect anybody to do anything with a team that is like just decimated by injuries.
And I mean, I'm not going to say that, this was going to be a top tier SEC pitching staff. It was probably going to be average to below average.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at it, right? You had Ian Losey, you had Daniel Whistler, Javen Pimentel is coming off of a phenomenal year. They lost Logan Lunsford to the portal in the offseason and went to Wake Forest. He's been one of the best pitchers in college baseball. You have those four right there. That's a solid rotation. And then you have, you look at some of the guys that they've gotten back from injury recently. You look at Sam Horn will eventually be in the mix there, and some of the guys that are currently starting, but otherwise would be in the bullpen. And you have not a half bad pitching staff. But right now, the injuries are so bad. In the Arkansas series, they sent out in one of the games Caden Nicoletto, Jalen Merchant. Merchant had previously thrown, I think, 2 innings all year, hadn't seen action in a long time in the season, which is telling given the issues with the pitching staff this year.
Right.
Basically hadn't seen action in a significant amount of time. And Caden Nicoletto, who primarily is a hitter for this team, threw 4 innings in NAIA at Columbia College last year. Decidedly not a pitcher.
Right.
And they threw them out there back to back. That is how depleted this staff is.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the last thing I'll say about it is, so the communications director in the J school, Joni Straub, she her son plays baseball at Rockbridge. And she talks to me about baseball all the time. And she was saying how, especially in Missouri, she's heard that those high school pitchers, those high school coaches will just run those pitchers into the ground, with reckless disregard for what it's going to do for them in the future when they get to college and end up having to get Tommy John or whatever. And they're just running them into the ground because they can, I guess. And then the other thing she said was, so Rockbridge has one really good pitcher, maybe. I can't remember the person's name. I apologize. She was telling me about somebody who was a really good pitcher that was going to go to Arkansas, or she was talking to a parent whose kid, another school, is going to go to Arkansas or something like that. And she was just talking about this kid didn't even consider Mizzou because they do not have the resources to make them any better. She was talking about how this parent said that Arkansas has all this developmental stuff in place, where all this analytical stuff, these machines, all these things that can help you actually develop into being a better pitcher. And Mizzou just doesn't have that stuff at their disposal, and it puts them at such a disadvantage.
There's a pretty clear
sucks.
reason why Mizzou has not made an NCAA tournament in baseball since joining the SEC. The jump up, especially from back then to now, in the Big 12 was massive to the SEC. And that would mean that the team needed to have a large influx in resources. That's something that never happened. They never got to the SEC level of investment in the baseball program. And so when you are in the SEC and you're not investing at an SEC level, you're not going to have an SEC level program.
That's true. So real quick, they're at Florida this weekend. Florida, you said, would probably be their best chance to get some wins. Is the rest of their schedule, is there any reprieve in there that perhaps they could pick up a win or two? Because I know they've already faced the toughest of the tough, I feel like.
Yeah, no, there are a couple of different opportunities. As odd as it sounds right now, Texas A&M is an opportunity. They were actually the preseason #1 team in the nation. Went to College World Series. They're 3-9 in SEC play. Mississippi State as well is 3-9 in SEC play. So those two teams are probably the best chance that you have. And Mississippi State as well is in Columbia. That'll be at the end of the season. So possibility of, maybe some guys return from injury. Maybe Sam Horn will likely be back at that point. And even before the beginning of the season, I think it was pretty apparent Sam Horn is by far the best pitcher you have. Just in terms of his stuff, he was likely going to be a top 3-round pick in the MLB draft if he had gone out of high school. Obviously, he decided to play both sports at Mizzou, but he's a guy that has legitimate future major league upside in baseball, if that is the route that he chooses. And I believe will most likely be the route that he ends up going in his professional career.
That'll be interesting to follow. Thank you, Matthew. Hopefully maybe they'll get a win this weekend. Who knows? Moving on, let's go to our TA, Abigail, our track analyst, who just did a super fun story that I think everybody should check out, in which she assigned some grades to different aspects of Mizzou's track team.
You're very, very kind. I think you're a little biased, but yes, I had a lot of fun. I was trying to organize all of the meets that have happened within the last 2 weeks for Mizzou's outdoor season, and just a couple of the different storylines, because outdoor season is even more chaotic than indoor. A lot of the meets hosted are distance specialty or jump specialty events, and so the team gets split up and sent across the country, as you mentioned. But we have a couple exciting storylines. It's definitely a slower week. They are only competing at SIUE this Saturday. It's only a single-day event. Naturally, the meet sheets haven't been released to my knowledge, so it's always a bit of a guessing game as to who will compete. But someone will be there, and I will tell you about it when it happens. But excitingly, if you recall, way back in January, I mentioned that Mizzou brought in 5 distance recruits who started immediately, most of whom are from Kenya and are true freshmen, at least in the U.S. collegiate sense. One of those being Monica Wanjiku. She doesn't have a pronunciation in her name, so I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. But she opened her collegiate year a couple weeks ago and ran the now 8th fastest 10,000 meter time in the nation. That was her first ever collegiate race. Her 32:21.97 time is the second best in the SEC this year. So again, if we want to play the cards out a little bit, that would be silver at SEC Outdoors if she raced that right now. And she is in the record books for Mizzou. So that was an incredibly exciting Mizzou debut for Monica. And her converted alternative 10,000 meter high school time would place her even higher on the nation list. Now, converted times are a little bit weird. It likely means she never raced that exact distance, or it wasn't on an outdoor track. So you can't exactly play the numbers, but it is fun if you try. And that would just increase her likelihood of medaling at SEC or national outdoors, which is incredibly exciting. It's also exciting to see Mizzou competing at that long distance. They've had a lot of success thus far in the 15, 3K, and 5K. The 10,000 meters is one of my favorites. It reminds me, I love watching the marathons, which I know is strange to some people, but the longer the race you watch, the more mental game it is. And while you think that the competition is in the last 400 meters, it's really somewhere in the 5 to 6K. And it's that endurance and watching how they navigate every turn. I just think it's so impressive. And to see such a young runner navigating that well in her first collegiate race is incredibly exciting. Now, something to note, some of the leaders in the nation have already raced that distance. Peyton No is one of them from Arkansas. She's actually from Iowa. But sometimes, because the 5 and 10Ks are so time intensive and require so much endurance, people will only race them once or twice, get the time they need to clock it for nationals, and then not see that distance again until conference or nationals. So hopefully no one's holding on to a time that they're waiting to compete in enter that event. Anyway, moving on. We also saw some excitement from the throws. 2023 NCAA West Regional Prelims qualifier, Valentina Barrios, took first in the women's javelin throw at the Battle of the Bayou. Exciting to see her continue to just progress this season. We've got several exciting javelin throwers. Her mark ranks 15th in the nation, which is well within scope for national prelims. Distance crew is doing great stuff. Because I'm a distance lover, I have to explain. I ranked them an A- in my article only because while they are setting program records, the national standards are just ridiculously fast. And if you look at the time it took for people to qualify for the 15K or the 1500 and the 5K indoor nationals, not a single woman would have qualified from 2015 in this year's event. Like the times are just getting ridiculously fast in the past 10 years. So Mizzou's not quite meeting that yet, but they're definitely getting there. And my personal anecdote of the week is I passed the entire, what seemed like, distance crew on the MKT trail last week. And that is a very humbling experience for a runner myself. Very casual, just amateurish runner. You know, I'm feeling really good, striding out. Oh, here comes Drew Rogers. I didn't wave, got to keep cool or whatever. And that, what I assume was just a leisurely stroll to them, they just sprint past, as did the entire jumps crew, including Coach Mav on the track today. So it's really funny that they train on the same tracks and trails that I do, but they're just a lot better at it.
Did you talk to him? Did you wave to him? You
No,
guys
I
are
gotta
like
keep it cool.
besties.
I was also
I'm surprised he didn't call out your name.
I don't know if he recognized me. I had my purple shades on. I was like in the zone, struggling a little bit. But the throws team is also doing really well and excited to see their progression in the hammer throw and weight throw. We also have a woman in the top 25 in the women's hammer throw, I believe. So yeah, doing pretty well across the board. Exciting to see where else the team goes.
Are you ever going to get to talk to Jonathan? Has Ryan been able to set that up? I mean, I know he's busy right now with
He's got a lot on his plate with gymnastics.
It's like right now.
The last thing I was going to mention, I forgot about the national rankings. The women were in the top 15 nationally for a minute there. I believe that was because of Monica's time. They fell way out of the rankings this week, but that's okay. Both men and women are sitting at about 10 and 11 in the SEC.
How are the jumpers doing?
Well, Clow beat Christy Press-Neiman in the women's high jump for the first time all season, so that was really cool. Neither of them have reached the marks that they've reached in indoor yet, but I remember Coach saying that that is okay and that he particularly schedules their trainings that they're peaking at nationals. So the high PRs that they reach at indoors, they're probably trying to work back up and then to pass those marks at outdoors again. Still have waiting on Jonathan to compete again, and Sterling hasn't competed in a minute. So yeah.
I kind of feel like the training, how they do like their training calendar almost reminds me of swimming.
Yeah.
Because you train really hard right through like a bunch of meets, and then you start to rest here and there for once you get to the bigger meets. So like Mizzou, I think, was fully tapered for SECs because that was going to be their biggest meet of the year. Despite the fact that some went to nationals, obviously, they weren't expected to really make any sort of dent there. So like if you go back and look at their times, they did. SECs was when they really kind of peaked.
Especially with the national rankings, you only have to get that mark once. Like we know Jonathan's capable of a 16.96. He's capable of a plus 17 meter triple jump. He just has to go out and do that once before SECs and he's back at SECs. Now, I don't mean to minimize the impact that that has, but there is something to be said for you are your sole individual athlete. You don't have a team to rely on. You have to compete and show up in best shape and best form at every meet. So it makes sense that they take the foot off the gas a little bit at the beginning of the outdoor season.
I agree. Thank you so much, Abigail. Always a pleasure to have you on to talk about track and field.
course, my question of
now-
the day to
oh.
Dylan, if we're going to Dylan next, would be if he
Okay.
was in track, what event do we think he would be good at?
None.
Jeez, oh my, that was fast.
Ew.
Jeez,
So mean.
that was rude. I never really competed in track outside of, your school field days. A personal event, if I were to ever choose one that I've been drawn to, is the shot put. I think the steps that it takes and like the spin, I don't know the exact form of it, but it's fascinates me, and it would be something I would love to learn. So
I will say I did compete in shot put briefly during elementary school, but it counts.
does it?
Yeah.
Were you throwing a softball like they do in elementary school?
This was an actual shot put.
Okay. Hey, that's
Started out with
impressive.
a softball. Started out with a softball.
I think I'd have to
actually
go
medal.
with like triathlon
and then
or
went to the
something.
shot.
Oh, yeah,
the
you would
actual
kill him.
shot
Yeah.
put. We actually, if this tells you anything, I went from softball to shot put, and then they were starting to train us on discus, which would have been the next year before I moved on to other sports.
Nice. I was
Yeah,
put in the
I'd
high
go with
jump.
like triathlon or something like that because I need the swimming aspect
Oh, for sure.
was my strong suit, and I just would try to power through the other things. So something like that. That will never happen. So we are now to Dylan, and I'll chime in as needed. We have a softball team.
Yeah, not as quite as dire as the other diamond sport, but there's been struggles. Weird weekend against number 1 Texas. Rain delays moved it all around, but it was just a mess of a 48 hours from the team, grounds crew, everybody involved. Everyone handled it very well, but it was a bit of a cluster to say the least. But as Coach Larissa would tell you firsthand, that doesn't excuse anything. Struggled all weekend. 8-0 run rule on Saturday, then played a doubleheader. Close games back to back. Lost 4-3 in game 1, then lost 3-1 in 8 innings. So you get swept by Texas. It's not the end of the world. You keep it close and you minimize that offense, which I predicted, by the way. But
I predicted the rain forecast.
You keep it pretty close. You feel pretty good. The stat heading into the game on Wednesday was they had 14 games left, and as a result, they had to go 8-6 to stay above 500 before the SEC tournament. And so you look at that hard enough with only 2 midweeks left and then 4 SEC series, and that makes it a lot harder when you lose your first midweek to Southern Illinois. 5-3 loss. It was not good. I'm going to talk about this game a little more in doubt because it happened yesterday. And it was
Thank
it
you
was a
for
frustrating.
covering it for me, by the way.
Yes,
I didn't. I'm sorry.
Life happens. We get it. Life happened for Mizzou softball. We'll put it that way. So good start to open the game. Marissa McCann threw 3 scoreless, hitless innings to start off strong. Mizzou picked up 2 runs in the bottom of the third thanks to doubles from Kaylee Langer, Julia Crenshaw. Taylor Ebbs, right place, right time, hit a hard hit ball that forced an error. Tigers are up 2-0. You feel good. Then it all kind of fell apart in the fourth. SIU goes ahead and gets a couple of people on before a 3-run home run. We've talked about these multi-home runs. Was another one. In the 5th inning, SIU scored one more time to go ahead 4-2. Julia Crenshaw did her best, hit a home run, cut it 4-3, but some more insult to injury after a couple hits. A ball got caught in the lights for Madison Updegrove, led to one more Saluki run. SIU wins 5-3, and Mizzou is really in a bad spot heading into the last 4 SEC series, now needing to go 8-5 against 4 ranked teams, plus SIUE. So
I think I was at the game as well, and I said it kind of seems like the only hope for this Mizzou team is if after returning from injury, Abby Hay turns into her 2024 self, and then the pitching staff returns to its 2024 form. If that happens, then I think this team starts to win some of those games where they've been so close. They've been this close a lot of the time. They just haven't gotten there. I think if you have those things change, it can happen. But outside of that, it's going to be a tough end of this year. They're gonna have to do a lot in order to reach the benchmark to make the postseason.
Yeah, and if they say they don't make the postseason, this will be the first time since 2006 that they don't make the NCAA tournament. Like, guys, that was a long time ago.
Also, we're not
I
fully
was
sounding
too.
the alarm bells yet, but it kind of feels as though this is a season that outcome is sneaking up on them. Like all season long, we keep saying, "Oh, well, the pitching is just going to get better." Like Sierra Harrison will just snap back into 2024 form when she admittedly did not have to do the heavy lifting that is expected of her now. Similarly with the situational hitting and leaving runners left on base and all of that. But we're to April 10th at this point. It's like, at what point in the season do we start acknowledging, which Dylan just did quite eloquently, that it's go time? Like, now you set yourself up for where this matters immediately. And I'm still optimistic. I don't know if it's my Coach Anderson bias, or I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's just because I've seen this team be successful time in and time again, and we know that they have an extra magical switch that gets flipped in postseason. But I don't know the secret sauce that needs to change to get them to find that, and I don't know if they're going to in time.
Well,
I mean,
and I was at the games this weekend. Well, I wasn't there on Friday, but I was there. Or no, well, Friday was canceled. I was I was there. I was there for the doubleheader. I paid attention to the first game because I was writing about it. The second game, I was technically there in the press box, but I wasn't super paying attention because Dylan was writing. And I'm not, like, I wasn't really discouraged by what I saw against Texas. Like, the run rule blowout aside, the other games, like, they were close. So that's not what really discourages me. I think it's more the losing yesterday. Like, that can't happen. Like, you just can't. Like, I know that SIUC is like a good MVC team, but you're in the SEC and you're trying to make the postseason. Every freaking win counts. And then that happens. And then I think I'm feeling better about Sierra Harrison. I think that she has actually been, like, aside from the bad pitch that led to the home run against Texas, she was good besides that. I am a bit concerned about Marissa McCann, though. She waffles back and forth with whether or not she's good or not. She did not pitch well against Texas, I don't think. I mean, she had to get taken out early. I feel like it, I don't know, and they just don't have enough depth on this staff to do anything when they're not, when both Cece and Marissa aren't on. Like, who are you going to go to? Taylor, who also kind of is struggling. Like, it makes me worried.
Yeah, I think Mizzou's also in a unique spot. Like, there's no way around it. There's some luck involved. Like, Mizzou is one of two teams to play both Texas and Oklahoma, which, sucks. Going 1-5 against those isn't bad by any means. Like, but at a certain point, you look at the schedule that they put in front of them. You go back to February, and they played 3 major tournaments to start the year, especially with a lot of freshmen who were still figuring stuff out. The SIU game, not good, but you look last year, they had a game like that against SEMO Like, some of
Yeah.
these are just going to happen, but unfortunately, the way they built the schedule this year, the way Larissa Anderson built the schedule, they didn't give themselves any wiggle room. Like, you check
Right.
the RPI, this is a top 40 team in the nation. Like, they're good.
Yeah.
There's no denying there's a lot of talent on this team, but just when you compete in the SEC and you schedule a non-con like Larissa Anderson did this year, you don't give yourself any wiggle room. And so as a result, they're now fighting for their lives below 500, despite being a pretty solid team that just has some issues.
And they're hitting.
Yeah.
Like, they are getting on base. You up and down the lineup. I'm excited about the development of the younger women near the bottom of the lineup. I mean, Maya Dodge, you look at her batting average, but that doesn't tell the right story. Like, throughout the last couple of games, like, she is getting on base a little bit. She showed up well against Missouri State. Like, that's growth that we've seen in Sophie Smith and Updegrove, honestly. Like, even just throughout the season, we've seen them develop a little bit more confidence. So that's a good thing. It's just unfortunately not translating into wins yet. I don't know.
Yeah. And Madison Walker can be counted on for home runs, but then, like, if she's not hitting home runs, she's not really doing anything. She's very feast or famine with that. And, like, I was talking about this with my dad today on my way home, because I said we were recording that with her too, because she's also not a very fast runner. Like, unless she hits the ball into the outfield, if she hits a grounder or something, she's probably out, because she's just not fast enough. So I don't know. So this weekend they are at Mississippi State, who is number 15. They are RPI 17. They are 31-10 on the season, 7-5 in the SEC. But so this is kind of interesting. And I wrote this on Rock M Plus before Mizzou's game yesterday. So Mississippi State is an interesting team because they have some real rough losses, like far worse than Mizzou's loss yesterday to a good MVC team. They lost to a 5-36 Northwestern State team. They got shut out 5-0 on March 2nd by this 5-win Northwestern State team. They also, at the end of February, they got shut out by Jacksonville State. Not exactly, they do have a winning record, but not exactly known as a powerhouse. Just a few weeks ago, they lost to Middle Tennessee 2-3. Middle Tennessee is 18-21. So, like, they are losing some games that they definitely should be winning too. But then also, like how Mizzou has they beat freaking Oklahoma one game, or they beat Duke, or they have some ranked wins. They beat Texas 1 out of 3 games at the end of March. They run-ruled Tennessee in one of their games and then got shut out in the other one. So it's like very Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So, like, I don't really know who Mississippi State is either. So maybe Mizzou can get it together and catch them on a bad weekend, because they do seem to have that in them. But like Dylan said, like, the rest of the schedule is just top 25 teams. Like, next week they play Texas A&M. They're number 3. Then they go to Bama, and then they come back and face Georgia. So I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna make the postseason, guys. And does the SEC tournament do we have to get to this spot where we need to hope that they win some games in the SEC tournament to get to 500?
Well, here's the thing. So the last time I checked, I'd have to double check, but I believe the SEC tournament only takes 14 teams for softball. So as of right now, since there's no Vanderbilt, so we're not even. Right now, Mizzou is in 14th place, tied with Auburn. So Georgia's right around that line. I don't know if SEC postseason games count. That's something that I'm going to try and research because I don't know where to even find that information. I might just have to ask Eric. But there is a very real situation that Mizzou's walking into the tournament as a 13 or a 14 seed and needs to win 2 games to even make it to the postseason. So there's pressure building.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So
well, I didn't because last year we didn't have Texas and Oklahoma, so everybody made it.
So, yes. So it will change things a little bit.
And ruined everything.
I think even to get
previews, return to sender. We don't need them.
I think even to a certain point, like to compete, you have to win 2 of those series. I don't think you have to sweep Georgia, but it would sure as heck help. I mean, take 1 against A&M. I think if you want to make a statement, you take 2 out of 3 against Mississippi State. That shows that this team is legit and they can show. Is it going to be easy? No, it's not going to be easy, but that is the first step you have to take. If not, you drop 3 games below 500. Oh boy, things are getting rough.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, that was fun. Now we actually can move on to something that was fun. Gymnastics. I gotta tell you guys, I think I about aged 20 years on Sunday night. I know Matthew was freaking out too. Matthew, you can chime in. I know you were watching. That was wild. Absolutely insane. So they got to regional finals easy enough. No real doubt there, I don't feel like. I did like my nemesis, John Roethlisberger. We're just going to keep calling him that, even though he didn't say anything to make me mad for regional finals. But during that round 2, he did, he made a statement that a lot of people on the internet took as rude or negative. He said something about when Mizzou went to bars and they just like threw up 9-9 after 9-9. He made some statement like, oh, Mizzou's just kind of playing with their food right now. And people, I don't know if people didn't understand what he meant, or they took it as like this, like, I can't believe he said that. And what the hell does that even mean? And because after that point, like, it was like Mizzou is gonna win this round. Like, there is no question. Like, they had a very strange floor rotation. Absolutely bizarre, scored, and weird mistakes they don't ever make. And then vault was fine. Like, it was fine. It's not their thing. But then, like, you go to bars. Well, this is the number 4 bars team in the country, and they like threw out all these crazy good scores. And so I think what he meant by it is just like, oh, now Mizzou's showing everybody like, this, watch us. This is what we can do.
I think kind of my understanding was that, look, in that session, it was pretty clear Mizzou was easily the best team there. Every single team in those first 2 rotations were just kind of like doing okay, not great. Everybody was pretty close. And then Mizzou just flipped a switch. They were on that night on bars. Yeah. And it's like, okay, yeah, this is clearly the best team among these. And they just immediately distanced themselves.
Yeah. I think so too. So then we go into Sunday. And Sunday was, I knew that there was no way they were going to have the same floor problems that they had on Friday and Sunday. Like, there was just no way, because like they were doing weird things with like under rotating passes, which they like rarely do. But like everybody was doing it. And we actually got to talk to Shannon about it. And we said, Nate and I both said something about how we noticed that like every team was having problems with that. There was just like a crap ton of under rotated passes, like from every single team. Oh, you wouldn't know with Oklahoma because they didn't get marked down for theirs, but the other teams all did. And so we're like, what was the deal? And he said he didn't really watch he doesn't ever pay attention to the other teams, but for Mizzou at least, the floor it didn't have much give to it. It was hard. So it was like they didn't really know how to absorb the landings. They weren't expecting it to be like that. So it could have partially been a bit of nerves, but also like the floor was weird. It was like it wasn't even on a platform. So it was just like a regular competition floor, but for some reason the floor was stiff. But they knew that going into regional finals, and they adjusted. They won a 49-5-5. Absolutely awesome. I think there were a couple scores in there that I was like, that seems kind of low. But for the most part, I mean, like that's their second highest ever regional final floor score they've ever gotten. And then went to vault. Hannah Horton was screwed. She was. She got a 9.95. Excellent score. However, if you're going to give someone a 10 for sticking a landing, they should actually have stuck the landing. And Hannah's vault was better than the person that got the 10. And then one judge gave her a 9.9. Like, it got thrown out because that was the lowest score. So they take out the high, the low, and then they count the middle two. But one person gave her a 9.9. That vault was incredible. Like, I don't know what she could have done differently, but she did really well. Kaya stuck her vault for the first time this season. She went a best 9.85. I think maybe that one could have been a bit higher. Jocelyn, I swear Jocelyn somehow pissed off the judges and no one knows how, because she got low balled on me. Like, they gave her, she had excellent height, far distance from the beam. What is she takes a tiny step. What do they give her? 9.825. Like, what? It makes no sense. And then she also got low barred on a bar score too. So it was like, Jocelyn, what did you do to these judges? Why did they hate you? She's impossible to hate. She's like the nicest, most jovial person in the universe. So they went, I think, 49-3 on vault. That was good. I mean, that was like their second highest score of the season. And I think they have the potential to do better. Bars was bad, but it wasn't bad. I think the thing that made me and Grace Anger and Nate Salzman so mad about bars was that they weren't bad on bars. Like, they had good routines. For whatever reason, the scoring was whack on bars. Like, I can't figure out what was going on over there. Hannah Horton, poor Hannah Horton, got a 9.75 when her only mistake appeared to be a single step on her landing. One judge gave her a 9.65. You get a 9.65 when you do something seriously wrong. Like, that's not even an okay score. Like, that is a, oh crap, we need to drop that score. But she got a 9.65 from one, she got a 9.7 from another, and like nobody knows why. Like Shannon just told us in the press conference that it was just a it was like a tightly judged event for some reason. So they only went, I think, 49-3 on that also. Not their best. And then then I lost consciousness on watching Beam because, my God, that was absolutely insane. I think Mizzou was up by 0.2 over Auburn going into floor. They were going into floor. Mizzou was going into Beam. Like, fine, it's fine. It's fine. Except for poor Amy Weir, who's normally very sure-footed. That Beam falls. Not only falls, she had a bunch of wobbles in there too, and then fell. And then she fell, and she kind of looked like a sloth because she kind of ended like with her body like wrapped around the beam, which I have learned that is a common thing when people fall. In certain instances, when you start to fall on the beam, that's how you just end up. You just end up like a sloth on the beam, holding on to it for dear life. So, needless to say, that raised the blood pressures of everyone in the world. If you talk to the team, they will tell you that they were fine. Like, they practice falls in practice. They practice following falls in practice. They have it all together. They got it. It's no problem. So Amari comes up next. I think I dissociated at one point. Like, I don't even know what was like. I was like, oh my God, they're kind of ruining my birthday again. Amari gets up there. Awesome. Bit low scored. Then who was after? Hold on, I have those notes. Rayleigh Jackson, who, fun fact, debuted a new dismount at regionals that she practiced earlier that week. So they completely changed her dismount to Helen's dismount earlier that week. She goes 9.85. Awesome. Seems kind of low because she didn't have any wobbles. Addison Lawrence took a step on her landing, also 9.85. Okay. Olivia Wolf turn, that's like when you're crouched down and she does this double turn. I don't know. It's real cool looking. It was a little wobbly, but she, stayed on the beam, and you probably wouldn't even have realized that it was a little off. So I kind of agree with that score. And then meanwhile, Auburn is on floor getting like wildly overscored. Like, and that's not me being a fan. Like, I was listening to All Things Gymnastics podcast, and they're like, those judges wanted Auburn to win. Like, their leadoff person made a huge mistake. She didn't even finish her first pass. She gets a 9.8. That's not even possible. You can't even get a 9.8 if you don't finish the pass. She got a 9.8. The second girl went out of bounds. They did not count the out of bounds. She got a 9.85. The third girl, Sophia Bell. Now, I will say I love her routine. Her music is awesome, but she had some crazy uncontrolled landing. No problem. 9.925 for you. The next girl, Olivia Greaves, she might have gone out of bounds, but I don't know if they actually, that one was kind of iffy on whether or not she did that. 9.875. Next girl, Gally McLaughlin, completely under-rotated pass. You know what? You're good. 9875 for you. So basically what it comes down to is Helen versus Sophia Groth. Sophia Groth, who had the entire meet, had been like the saving grace for Auburn. I'm scared to death. Not
Mizzou
because
is
I don't believe
leading.
in Helen. What?
Mizzou is leading by 0.025 effectively at that point.
Yes.
So for all intents and purposes, they were basically tied.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So Helen's first, obviously, because the floor rotation ends, and the emotions are really amped up, like because they show beam and floor at the same time, so that's like the split screen, and they're both right there, and I'm like about to pass out, like willing Helen like to please get this done. She finishes first, goes 9925. Sorry, that should have been a 10, but or maybe not. I'll take 995. She stuck the landing. She didn't wobble. She did dig her heels in really, really far on that landing. I don't think that that's a deduction, but she was like, no, I ain't sticking this damn landing. And she did. And so that left Sophia Groth had to go a 995, which, given how the judging on the floor had been going thus far, I was like, oh, yeah, this could happen. She under rotates a pass. The judges finally give a decent score, a fair score to Auburn on floor. And they only give her a 985. Mizzou wins by 10. I burst into tears. I did. I was like sending Grace and Nate a voice memo where I'm like hyperventilating, like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Nate's sending me like a FaceTime video of like watching, like freaking out. We're all freaking out. Can't believe it. We did ask on Wednesday because it seemed like it took them a long time to give the final result, even though everybody at home knew already. And Mara said that where they were standing, it made it hard to see, so they couldn't tell what Helen's score was. No one was really sure if she had gotten enough to do it. They're just like, she's like, it felt like they made us wait forever. I understand it did look like it took forever. She said, we think we got it. We think we got it. I guess somebody got a text from one of their parents. The parents like, no, you guys, you're okay. You're okay. And they're like, are you sure? Are you sure we're okay? Like, they're all clutching each other. Like, oh my God, like, what's going to happen? Oh, thank God. They got it. They got it done. Amari, for her regionals performance, was awarded the WCGA Central Gymnast of the Year, I think, for her performance. And Shannon, Coach of the Year, same thing, WCGA Central Region Coach of the Year. So next up, they are headed to Dallas-Fort Worth, where they will participate against SEC teams again because, you know, why not? Let's just face all SEC teams all the time. So they will come face to face back with Oklahoma. Yay. Also Florida and Alabama. They're going to start on floor again. It is just it was a random draw how they ended up starting on floor again. Like, it wasn't decided ahead of time. Like, they drew NQS 1 through 4. That's just how it turned out. if we want to be mad that Mizzou ended up starting on floor again, you can blame Alabama, because when Alabama knocked off Cal was a higher seeded NQS than Mizzou. So if Cal had won that meet, which they should have, they would have been starting on floor, and Mizzou would have gotten Olympic order. So they would have started on vault. Shannon said they are used to starting on floor by now. And they also are very used to ending on beam, since any away meet, you end on beam. So that's not anything weird. But he did say that so they started on floor both of these meets. Last year, regionals and regional finals, they started on floor both of those too. So it's just like, we're just going to get it. We're just going to get it done. So they head out on Wednesday. I think they're going to do another media availability on Monday. They've been doing media availabilities like crazy. God bless Ryan. Like, he really is like heart. Like, he is letting us talk to whoever we want. He'll text me and Grace and Nate and be like, who do you guys want to talk to? Let's do this. And like, he lets us each pick each time. So we like have like unlimited access to people, I feel like. So it's been really awesome, which is also why my recap I wrote differently than I normally write my recap, and also why my dad said it is approximately the length of a dissertation. So it is like 4,800 words, but it also might be like my favorite thing I've ever written. Yeah, so I'm excited to keep it going. Next Thursday, 3 p.m. ESPN2. They say, like, outsiders will say that Mizzou's like kind of like playing with house money now, but don't say that to them. Like, they knew that they were going to be here. Like Amari said, she knew after she did her beam routine, she's like, I'm not worried about this. This team is going to get it done. And I know that this is not the last beam routine of my career. I have 2 beam routines left in me. So like, one for Elite 8, one for 4 on the floor. She's like, I have these left in me. I know it's not done. Thank you. So that was it. Yeah. Ugh, they're just such a joy to cover. I love them so much. All right. That's all I have to say about gymnastics. And then Abigail has to leave us. Thank you for joining us, Abigail.
Yes,
Sorry,
thank
I
you
went
for
real
having me.
long-winded on the gymnastics.
No, I loved that dramatic retelling. It was fantastic. And I would echo what you said. Your recap was phenomenal, or preview with all the quotes. If you want to like learn the personalities of why everyone loves following gymnastics, you should read Karen's piece. So that's my endorsement.
Yeah, my dad's like, you took a long time to get to the results. And I was like, because I had so many amazing quotes to include.
Yeah,
like,
it was very, very colorful and engaging. I loved it. Okay, I have to leave. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay. All right. And then now, guys, women's basketball news. Oh, this should technically be out of season sports.
It's out of season, but boy, do we have a lot of news. It never sleeps. The beast never sleeps. We've had a lot of updates recently. I'll start with players because that's always the exciting news. 1 transfer in, 2 transfers out. We'll start with the out, get it out of the way. Delilah Brown, who we didn't even know had eligibility, so she wasn't planning to be on the roster. JUCO rules. I'm not the first one to tell you nobody knows what's going on. Sure, she's in the portal. Could be a good addition. Ashton Judd is, of course, the big one that everyone's talking about. Seems likely that she could follow Pinchton to Wisconsin. If not, she could probably have a role in the rotation, maybe not as a starter, but as a role player on an SEC competing team. You look at a team like Oklahoma or Texas, for example. These are just hunches. Nothing has been reported yet, but talking about Karen, you're muted right now. Oh boy.
Unmute. There we go. Sorry.
There we go.
We were saying before the gymnastics availability, a bunch of us were there. We're like, if she doesn't end up with Wisconsin with Robin, then several of us were like, I bet she ends up at Missouri State.
Yeah, could easily go be a starter there. Now talking about the transfer in, Sanaya Tyler from Kentucky. Perfect fit for the program. Point guard, 5'6", heading into her senior year. Again, we'll talk about rotations later, but I'd suspect she's going to come in and be the starting point guard. Actually, according to this, she might actually just be a junior next year. Either way, she'll compete for the starting point guard spot. She actually is from Missouri, played at Incarnate Word, if you know anything about women's basketball. Powerhouse.
Incarnate.
Incredible. Played more or less 3 years at Kentucky. Played a little bit her first year, really stepped onto the scene in her second year, started 13 games, averaged 10 points in double figures, had some really solid games, including one against Kellie Harper's Tennessee in the tournament where she put up 17. But, of course, they had the coaching change, bringing in Kenny Brooks. Tyler stuck around, but her starting spot was taken by Georgia Amor. There's only so
Weird.
Yeah, there's only so many players like Georgia. So Sanaya Tyler had good splits, but just didn't get the playing time because, of course.
I think that's the thing that people need to remember the most. We were kind of I was talking about that with Natalie Jones too, was like, you see like 2 point something, and then everybody collectively freaks out like, oh my God, why is she getting somebody that only averages 2.5 points a game? And it's like, you have to look a little deeper than that.
I would guess her starting caliber player is much closer to the 10.6 or beyond than the 2.3.
Yes.
Fun little nugget as well. She originally chose Kentucky over Arizona State and Tennessee, which is, of course, where Harper was during that recruiting cycle. So she's been a fan of Tyler for years now. We all know Harper was, of course, a point guard herself. I think she is going to be a big addition. Looking into the portal, as Karen has kind of spoiled, not really. This came out right before the pod, so we're just talking about it. Two players visiting Mizzou. Shannon Dowell from Illinois State, and I believe that's Jordana Reisma from Cleveland State. I wrote 15 transfers to watch on Rock M, which you should go read. Shannon Dowell was on there as another native from Illinois. She's played her last 2 years, 17.6 points as a shooting guard. The question is who would start, her or Shrek? I would probably lean Dowell, or you could go small ball and play Shrek, Dowell, Slaughter down the middle. And then Jordana Reisma averaged, I believe it was 7 rebounds, 6.9, and then 14.5 points. So
wow,
really good set of players. And so my guess is that Kellie Harper is looking for these two players to go ahead and try and round out that starting five. There's, of course, other teams that are interested in these players, but especially for Reisma, I haven't seen a lot of traction outside of Mizzou. Dowell has had some interest from a couple other schools at the power level, but it seems that Harper's finally picking up some traction and has a plan for the program. Obviously, everyone gets a little stressed out when you don't hear a lot of news, but Harper's got a plan, and it looks like it's going into motion.
And Dowell is a Metro East native, so a bit of a, local feel to that.
Nice. And we were saying, because I was with Cal McAndrew and Eli Hoff and Allie Jones and stuff, so we were all talking about basketball, and somebody said that they had talked to Toby SID and said that I think that the transfers, it sounds like Mizzou's known about them for a while. They just wanted to kind of hold that information back until Kellie was introduced, so the players could announce their intention to transfer on their own time. And then also, so Kellie got her, her moment before Ashton's announcement came out or something like that. But that he also, I guess, said there's much more good news coming than more transfers, I guess. So
I mean, you
That
check
was
the
promising.
roster. There's plenty of openings around.
Right.
I'm very curious to see how they look to fill it because there's a lot of great players in the portal. NIL is a factor. You can't play a 15-person rotation unless you're a psycho. But I don't quite think Harper's got that level of psychotic in her. Kim Caldwell might.
Yeah.
Kellie Harper doesn't. But you're looking, of course, who's in your rotation, who are the 10 to 12 players you want to build this team around, and who else can round it out as your depth pieces, especially looking on the younger side. They do need that senior leadership, but it's never a bad idea to pick up some freshmen and sophomores to develop because Harper's always tagged herself as a developmental coach more than anything.
Like we've talked about, a little bit of a concern with the, quote unquote, slow start in the portal. But the thing that I kind of always kept in the back of my mind was look at last year. Look, all due respect to Robin Pinshin, everybody knew that she was getting fired or wasn't going to get her contract renewed during this season. She was a lame duck head coach. She still found a way to go out and get Nia Wilson and Lania Randall in the portal.
Yeah.
So if she was able to do
That's
that,
true.
given her situation and given what we know about Harper's ability as a recruiter in the portal, I figured sooner or later the Tigers are going to get around. They're going to start gaining momentum. They should be fine.
Talking about coaches really briefly. Hired to a final assistant coach, the fifth and final. So John Harper will not be on staff, which is a new thing for Kellie Harper. Michael Scruggs will be coming in instead. Most recently worked at Georgia Tech. This will be his 17th year coaching. Great experience, like we talked about, for a mostly young staff. And then on the other side, Haley Hall, director of basketball operations, previously worked with Harper under Tennessee. What else is new? Also spent time at Oklahoma. So has a note for the area. And so I think there's a lot of great things going on within the program. You can start to see the identity and the team come together beyond just the nucleus of Harper, which I think is really important.
Yeah, it definitely seems like she has kept these people close to her over the years. And it's like, all right, now I'm back in coaching. Come join me.
It is very much.
I think that's pretty cool.
It's a back in the saddle season. You can tell that Harper's coming into this with something to prove. She's clearly not ecstatic with how things ended 2 years ago and is very much ready to prove the doubters wrong, to put it, for lack of a better term.
Yes. And I do encourage everyone to visit the site and look at Dylan's piece that it dropped today with 15 plus 1 honorable mention over there for Miss Audia Young, the child of one CY. Had to get her on there. She hasn't committed to another place yet. What's to stop her from letting her dad be at all her games? He goes to games anyway. You might as well watch his daughter. So that was really well done. I really enjoyed it. I like that, we didn't even know this skim milky news that one of these players was going to be visiting, and then they turned out they're on your list. So it's like your prediction skills are just like top notch.
So if you want to see some people who could be on the team, check out the list.
Yeah. It could happen. It could happen. And then to wrap up, we have a couple things from. Oh, Dylan's got to go too.
Yeah, sorry. Life happens. Thank you, everyone.
That's okay.
Great podcast. And it's
We will wrap up with Matthew, since he's the only other one here. Volleyball and wrestling. You saw the volleyball team in person.
I did, yes.
What did you think? And we have an SEC schedule.
Yep. So first, a little bit of a caveat for volleyball. They pretty much kind of played two different squads there wasn't really a lot of overlap in terms of who they played from game 1 to game 2. They beat Quincy University and SIUE 3-1. Game 1, they were playing kind of more like Marina Crownover with the starting hitters. And then game 2, it was more of, maybe the starting middle blocker. And then you had Sierra Dudley. Maya Sands was the only player who played both. They're kind of going at 75% pretty much, except for Maya Sands, who's just flying around here, there, and everywhere because it's Maya Sands, and that's what she does. There's a reason she's been the SEC Libero of the Year 2 years in a row. But to answer your question, they looked really good. This team, I think I talked about the noticeable improvement in the team's depth last year. I think that that's even more true this season. I think that they managed to get even deeper this year. They've got a great group of middles. Reagan Haith did not play. She's still out with an injury, had a procedure early in the offseason. Tyra Ariel was wearing a large brace, but she did play pretty much all of the second match. Kaylin Alexander, to my knowledge, was not there, but I wouldn't really see that as a major concern. We don't have any indications about any issues there, so I don't really think that's an issue.
Well, and I mean, she's probably finishing out the school year at Hawaii, I would think.
It could be. I'm not 100% sure on that. One thing I did see that I was really encouraged by, kind of the only concern, my main concern with the team entering the season is the defense going to take a step back in the back row? Because of the departure of Jordan Iliff and Michael Vernon, who are really crucial pieces of that back row defense. Janet Demaray, Claire Morrissey don't have as much experience with the defense in the back row. Demaray especially looked significantly improved. And again, you have to consider the level of competition. That being said, I think that you're going to see her take a big step up there. And that's exactly what they need her to do. They need her to be a 6th rotation player. I think the group of middles looked really good as well. And then the other thing that stood out to me was just some of the young players. Asia Harvey was the 10th overall recruit in the nation as an outside hitter. Mac Labaglio, also freshman, possibly a future right side hitter. And she has international experience with Argentina's national team, which, if you know, South American volleyball is extremely legit. Argentina really good at volleyball, to the best of my knowledge. So the fact that she was able to break in with a national team there was really impressive. And you could see it. They kind of started out a little bit slow. You could tell they have a lot of power on their swings, and they just weren't able to control it. But the longer they played against SIUE, they went from having a lot of errors to figuring that out, dialing it back, and still having a ton of power. And then they just were dominating by the end of the match. So you could tell the learning process that took place, and they were able to adjust so quickly during that match. It was really impressive to see in person. And so I think that the future of the hitters group at Mizzou is very, very bright. Looking 2 years down the road, you could have your 3 starting hitters be Claire Morrissey, who is going to be starting this year, former 3rd overall recruit in the nation, Asia Harvey, a 5-star, Mac Labaglio, the international experience. Those 3, I hesitate to say it, might come close to the power that Jordan Iliff had on her swing. Imagine 3 Jordan Iliff level power hitters in your starting lineup. That's what Mizzou might have in 2 years. The future remains bright for the Tigers.
That's awesome.
But the present day is very bright as well. Getting a glimpse, Mizzou announcing its 2025 conference schedule, 15 matches this year. Vanderbilt is back. It has a volleyball team for the first time in decades, so they play 1 match per team.
Wow.
And I think since like the 1970s, yeah. They're also bringing back the SEC tournament for the first time since 2005, probably the reason why you lose one of those matches. So currently, Mizzou is going to face Arkansas, Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, South Carolina at home, and Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Texas A&M, and Vanderbilt on the road. It's a pretty tough early schedule for the Tigers. You get Texas and Texas A&M, 2 likely preseason top 25 teams, the first weekend of SEC play. And then shortly thereafter, you face Florida, a possible top 10 team in the preseason on the road. 3 of your first 5 matches, that's really tough. But here's the key. It allows them to have a slightly easier back end of the SEC schedule, and they can build some momentum heading into what could be a very, very big match at Hearn Center against Kentucky, a team that may be in the top 5 in the preseason, a possible national title contender, a dark horse national
Mizzou's
title contender,
kryptonite.
and a team that Mizzou has not beaten since 2016, including multiple losses last year, among them being that Sweet 16 match they lost to Kentucky. So, Mizzou, depending on how the season goes, looking to remain in the top end of the SEC, something I think they can do. I said I have them as a top 20 team in the preseason, possibly top 15. If they live up to those expectations, that Kentucky match could be a very big one. If they get that win, could possibly even cement them to host in the NCAA tournament. Like I said, I have them as a top 15 team, ranked 15th in my preseason poll. That's big. And in front of a packed Hearn Center crowd, as the Tigers gain momentum in all likelihood over the back end of the schedule, that could be a marquee matchup in Columbia.
I have been to a NCAA volleyball tournament game that Mizzou has hosted before at Hearns.
It's been a while.
They played Purdue. I think. I'm almost positive. It's been a while, but I did definitely go to one of those, and it was a really nice environment. So that's cool. Love it. Love it. And then you also have a wrestling update because the Tigers got a transfer.
Not only did they get a transfer, they got a commit as well. On the transfer side of things, Max Mayfield, a 3-time NCAA qualifier, transferring from Northwestern. He was the 18 seed in the NCAA tournament, NCAA championships at 165 pounds this year. He ended up going 2-2. 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, he was also the 18 seed. So Mizzou getting a 3-time NCAA qualifier out of the portal, pretty good work. The other thing that's notable about it means that Cam Steed will likely bump up to 174 pounds. He took over for O'Toole this year at 165. Looks like now he gets to take over for O'Toole at 174 as well. And then on the high school side, Mizzou getting a top 150 recruit in Cash Cooley, 3-time state placer, 2-time finalist, and a 1-time Texas state champ. He was a U17 world team member in 2023, ranked in the top 25 at his weight class, which is 190 pounds, and currently 114th on the Matt Scouts 2026 big board.
That is awesome. And then we will get out of here. I was going to share I meant to put this up when I was talking about my gymnastics. So SID Ryan Gates sent us some B-roll footage, and I basically went through the B-roll and paused it and then screenshotted it to get some photos that I could use. And this is one of them. So cool. So cool. And then this was like one of my favorite moments. So they had just gone and put their sticker up, and then all of a sudden Amari is like tackling Jocelyn. So I have a bunch of other pictures too, but those I wanted to make sure I shared those. So we have a lot more to come at Rockin' Nation. We are killing it on the Olympic sports beat. We are filling the pages. And thank you everybody for tuning in. I don't know if we'll have an episode next week. We'll see. We've kind of been going every other week. It's just going to kind of depend I kind of think I might want to have one next week because I might have some more gymnastics updates. And maybe we'll have hopefully some good softball or baseball news to talk about. So we'll just see. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I know that we went long again. We also I'll get an update from Rory here at the end. Mizzou is a golf school, apparently. That's what they're saying anyway. They've been doing really well, so she's got a lot of updates for that. So
hi everybody, it's time to consider Mizzou a golf school. Not just because it's Masters Week, but because these teams continue to excel week after week, and I will shout it from the rooftops time and time again. We're going to start with the women first, who took third in their tournament, which was the Liz Murphy Collegiate Classic. They finished above two conference opponents, number 48 Alabama and number 34 Oklahoma. There were 4 Tigers that also finished in the top 25. Melanie Walker recorded her personal best finish of the year, ending in 6th place. It was also her second top 10 placement of the season. Fiontina's sealed her 8th consecutive top 15 finish of the season, coming in at 11th place. Jade Zamora also finishing in 11th. And then we had Alexandra Berglund rounding out the group in 25th place. So now Mizzou has 4 top 50 wins in the last 2 tournaments alone. On a major hot streak, definitely one to keep an eye out for heading into the postseason, which starts in 4 days at the SEC Championships in Florida. Moving on to the men. They won their first tournament of the season. Round of applause. I better see everybody clapping on the other side of that screen. They were defending their home turf, and they found success at the Tiger Intercollegiate, walking away with the victory. And not only did the team walk away with the victory, but Matthias Varjan finished at the top of the field as well, taking the individual crown. It was his 42nd career tournament and his first ever victory. The performance also earned him SEC Golfer of the Week, so major props to him. Team-wise, massive deal for them. 4 members in the top 10 alone. Trent Merrill, after a huge week last week, he was the freshman Golfer of the Week, finished 3rd overall, matching a career best, and Vika Viscari finished in 5th place, with Bubba Chapman, also a freshman, securing 8th overall. They will also be back on the green on April 14th as well, but it is not SEC Championships. It will be the Mossy Oak Collegiate, hosted by Mississippi State. So again, don't just pay attention to golf because it's the Masters. Pay attention to golf because your Missouri Tigers are absolutely killing it out there. And I mean, my name's Rory. There's a pretty good professional golfer also named Rory, so I think it's good advice to take from me. Moving on to tennis, the Tigers did move slightly down in the rankings, but that's okay because they're still ranked at 71. Holding on to that impressive number, this past week they faced 2 huge opponents, number 18 South Carolina and number 1, yes, top in the nation, in Georgia. Against the Gamecocks, the Tigers were swept 4-0, but they still played well. And in singles, the team alone faced 3 nationally ranked players. Freshman Zoe Lazar even won a set against number 97 Misa Malkin before the match went unfinished. Another freshman, Gia Akta, also won her first set before the match went unfinished as well. Matches sometimes go unfinished in tennis because you only need 4 events to win, 2 singles, 2 doubles. So if you're mid-match and it's already over, then your match is unfinished. So it wasn't because of injury or anything like that. The Tigers were then swept by Georgia as well, but again, Georgia is the number 1 team in the nation. The women faced 4 nationally ranked players in singles, so 4 this time, so 7 ranked individuals this weekend alone. Mary Brumfield faced the top player in the nation and still put up a strong fight. However, she lost sets 6-2 and 6-3. But I mean, these were huge opponents, and head coach Bianca Turati was still incredibly proud of the team, despite the results. As she says, it was not the easiest weekend for the team, and we had 2 very tough matches. Against Georgia today, I'm proud of the level we showed on some of the courts, especially in singles, because we created and had opportunities against the best team around at the moment. Next up is senior day for them. They will be returning to Columbia to face number 6 Tennessee on the 11th. It's going to say tomorrow, but I don't know when this is going to be hitting your ears. And they will also be home on Sunday for a doubleheader against number 46 Kentucky and Lindenwood as well. Fortunate that I couldn't be on the pod with you guys, but I'm glad I could bring you some pretty hopeful Olympic sports updates. So I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. MIC.
ZOU.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and the benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not the Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.